What's up, and welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Thursday, August 3rd. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Chris the Welsh. Today on the show, what the heck is going on with Joe Ryan? Chas McCormick continues to destroy baseballs, and we have big injury updates on Bichette and, unfortunately, Shane McClanahan. Before we get started, please like this video and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. And if you're listening on the audio side, download, follow, and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. Let's jump right in.
Holy cow! How about that?
Welsh, holy cow. Who you got? Player of the night or bad performance of the night?
Yeah, mine is a little bit on that front, and I got one for you, and I think Frank like this. Lucas Giolito. Oh, no, Lucas Giolito. Things not looking good after that trade. Things nobody wanted to see. Lucas Giolito got lit up for 9 earned runs in this one. He had 10 total swinging strikes. It wasn't good. Four-seam fastball, no whiffs. Slider had the stuff. Frank, I went and looked at the illustrator for his zone coverage and the balls. I counted 8 fastballs that successfully touched, like really touched, the strike zone. 3 others that hugged it, fastballs all over the place. Sliders hit one part of the, I guess it'd be the left side of the zone, sat there, changeup all over the place. Lucas Giolito, breaking news, he's a mess. And it's just not getting fixed. And he has been consistently inconsistent this whole year. And this is the worry that you had in the payout. This is why the price wasn't exponential for Lucas Giolito. And the pitch mix hasn't worked. The command is all over the place. The walks have been absolutely absurd this entire year with him. And this is a bad trend in a lot of different spots. And we got some people that are screaming about Joe Ryan, like you said, in other places. Lucas Giolito is putting himself in a spot that I think we really have to question how much you can trust him down the line. There's going to be plenty of leagues where there's not going to be better options, but you're looking at a 4.5 expected ERA, a barrel percentage that is exponentially higher than it has been at any point in his career. His walks are over 8 right now, and hard hit is the hardest since his rookie year. And put on top of all of that, the walks say, hey, it's 8. But the command is all over the place. The pitch mix is a disaster. That changeup was today. I just don't feel good about Giolito moving forward. And I just, maybe this is like everybody already feels this way, but I think you're in a spot where you really have to pick and choose where you want to put him out there. And I'm looking for pretty heavy swing and miss teams that are maybe going to mask some of the walks and get some of those strikeouts. Today was pretty gross.
Pretty gross indeed. One of the toughest matchups, if not the toughest matchup for a pitcher this season, going up against the Atlanta Braves. It's just really tough for someone like Giolito, who already allows a lot of hard contact, going up against a team that makes the most hard contact in all of baseball. So there have been lots of blow-up starts this year. Giolito, the 3rd time he's allowed 7 or more earned runs this season. He's also allowed 2 or more home runs in 4 of his past 7 starts. 2 home runs or more in 4 of his past 7 starts. So he puts the ball in the air, hard contact. The walks have been an issue. You highlighted all this stuff, and we were talking beforehand. Giolito is one of these pitchers. He tinkers a lot. He changes with the pitch mix, and he struggles with control, and he just kind of seems like he is looking for something right now. And I don't know that you're going out there and you're dropping Giolito, but I think for the time being, I mean, next week he's facing the Giants. Not that they're like a great lineup by any means, but, they're pesky at times. So I think I'm okay saying, yes, let's bench Giolito until we see maybe a string of good starts together.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of implying like there might be some formats where it's like, listen, you just don't need to do this anymore. He had that June was great. He had a sub-3 ERA. Every month since then, it has been over 4. The walks have been gross. And he's 100%. I think a matchup-based pitcher the rest of the way. There's not going to be any major confidence if there's a hard-hitting team there. But, yeah, like you said, I was telling you off air, I kind of wish there was just somebody that could take control. And I'm not saying this hasn't happened before because what do I know? I haven't been around Lucas Giolito in every point of his life in his baseball career. Maybe there have been coaches that have sat down and really worked. But my impression of kind of being around and just his approach has been he takes care of this. In the offseason, he goes to drive line. he changes the way he pitches. He is changing the way he delivers the ball. If it's inside really much or however it is, he gains weight, loses, what did he lose, 70 pounds or whatever insane amount of weight. He just up and down. He's always trying different things. I wish there was someone that was like, stop it. Like, this is what you do. I feel like someone needs to take control of this clay, and they need to mold it in a way that he doesn't have control of it. But that is just my perception, and it doesn't help us for this year. So, yeah, I think you got to really watch the matchups. Like you said, Giants, not even the best right now because he really can hurt your ratios. Like, sure, he can get 10 strikeouts. Cool. He has an awesome offense with Shohei Ohtani behind him, but I don't trust him. And he's one of these guys that's single-handedly going to blow up your ratios, and I don't like that, especially at this time of the year.
97% rostered for Giolito on CBS. He's only started in 62% of leagues, so some people already started benching him. The names that we've talked about the past couple of days as waiver wire pitchers, Seth Lugo, Nick Pivetta had that double-digit strikeout start on Monday, and Andrew Heaney had 11 strikeouts yesterday. Would you drop Giolito for any of those?
Oh, man, would I drop? You know what? I think we're getting to the point. We do this in a lot of fantasy where sometimes it's a put up or shut up where it's just like, you know what? You just got to make the moves. You got to bite the bullet. I don't think the worst move on the planet is to drop him for Andrew Heaney. Do you? Like Nick Pivetta, it's getting there. Like maybe. I don't know. But like, is it the worst to go with that offense? I know Heaney has gone through kind of a stretch. Really hoping he's going to have that back. The offense is starting to get back going. Texas Rangers are finding themselves again. Do you think you could pull the trigger on the Heaney one, or that's that criminal to drop Giolito for him? Because I don't.
I don't think it's criminal, but they seem like very similar pitchers.
Very similar. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Like you could get the same line from either one of those guys. So then it's like, okay, if they are similar, you want the track record of Giolito, or do you want that offensive support of the Rangers?
Yeah, I think I would just stick with Giolito there. I think the one I might do it for is Seth Lugo. I've just become the Seth Lugo stan on this podcast. Go look at his numbers, Welsh. He's just rock solid. Mid-3s ERA, a sub 1.2 whip, right around a strikeout per inning. He doesn't kill you. He's not going to throw a complete game. He's going to give you 6 solid innings every time out. And I think he's one of the most under-rostered players on CBS. He's 71%. He has RP eligibility, so if you're playing a points league, you have that SPARP factor as well. I look, again, if you just want like a higher floor pitcher, I could see doing it for him. I probably wouldn't do it for any of those other names. One name I was going to say for later on, Grayson Rodriguez. He's up to 77% rostered. He was solid at the Blue Jays on Wednesday, 5 2/3 innings, 3 runs, 6 strikeouts. In 4 starts since returning, 3.57 ERA, 1.02 whip. Would you drop Giolito for Grayson Rodriguez?
Yeah, see, now you're kind of getting to where I'm starting to look. Yeah, I think I would. And I don't know if people wouldn't like that. I mean, the velo was back up again. From season averages, it's up like 1.5 miles. Everything was up by 1 mile or more half on the overall averages. Fastball was slanging. He changed up the mix. He actually went like heavier fastball in this game. Had a 67% zone percentage on it. And you need to get a little bit more on like outside of the zone swing. It was only 17%, but he went heavier on that today. And then he went a little bit more on like slider changeup, and those became more effective. So like if your fastball is effective, he can throw more of them, and then he can punch these guys out with the changeup and slider, which those 2 pitches, which I'm doing the math, equated to 34% of his usage. Those had 8 strikeouts, both changeup with a 33% swing and whiff, 63 on the slider, 5 of 8 swings were missed. So I think the way he's trending and the way this team is trending, I would go with Grayson Rodriguez, but I'm also not going to like deny that they also might be similar players. I think the upside though is the highest with Grayson Rodriguez, even in this year, because I don't think you're seeing any cap type of stuff. But he also just might be like the younger, sexier, sleeker version of what Giolito has been in the past, and maybe he could be, but he's not showing any signs of it. So that's why I'm kind of anti-Giolito right now.
All right, well, let's slide over to another pitcher who's been struggling, Joe Ryan. Looks like he is just broken right now. He allowed 4 more home runs at the St. Louis Cardinals here on Wednesday. He allowed 7 runs total over 4 innings pitched. Still got a bunch of whiffs. He got the strikeouts. That's what he's been doing. But lots of hard contact. We know that he puts a lot of balls in the air, lots of fly balls here for Joe Ryan pitching up in the zone. But all of a sudden, he has allowed 17 home runs over his last 7 starts. 17 home runs in 7 starts. I mean, it sounds like a home run derby, right? I mean,
Pete Alonso would be like, please, I need you as my BP thrower, please.
It is crazy stuff. And all of a sudden, the ratios on the season for Joe Ryan, 4.43 ERA. The
Man.
whip still looks solid at 1.13, but 1.8 home runs per 9. That's fifth most among qualified starting pitchers. Well, so what do we do with Joe Ryan? The problem here is next week he's in line for 2 starts at the Tigers and at the Phillies. A lot of times we say, look, if you can't start a pitcher in a 2-start week where one of them is against the Tigers, you probably shouldn't even roster that pitcher.
Yeah, that's like put that on a gravestone. You're like, if you can't start against the Tigers, I'm probably still going to throw him out there. You know, I mean, from a season total perspective, the walks are still low. He's got a full run better expected ERA than that ERA is. This game is weird. I would be curious about like what was going on from a pitch usage standpoint. The fastball has been 57%, split finger 28%, with sweeper 10% on the year. But this game he went heavy sweeper. But here's my problem: it was ineffective. It had a 14% whiff rate on it, and he had that more than the splitter. I feel like the splitter has maybe just like come down a little bit as well. 21% CSW percentage. It wasn't sitting in the zone, and it had a 9% outside the zone swing percentage. This is sometimes what you worry about guys that are going to rely heavy like on splitters as well. And this was my Casey Mize thing from a long time ago. If you're dependent on that and guys aren't swinging at it, you have to be effective in other places. Obviously, the splitter is not effective right now, 9% outside of the zone swing percentage, so he's going to his other pitches, which are not flying. It's one of those fastballs we all kind of make excuses for a little bit, and the sweeper just wasn't doing anything. It's at a 34% whiff rate, highest of any pitch on the season, but yet, as I just told you, today it was 14%. No one was swinging at that. No one needed to swing at the split finger, and that just leaves a fastball to be kind of messed up. So can he fix it? I don't know. He's been a good pitcher on the totality of the year, so I tend to want to lean on that, but you do have to question a little bit. It's just those matchups next week it's pretty decent. You know, strikeout guys in Philly and Detroit, like you said, you got to do that. This might be do or die. You know what? Let it be do or die the first week in August to make your decisions if he is going to be someone that, I know some people are freaking out and cutting him, but if you need to start worrying about matchup plays with him and making moves like that, let this be the decision instead of it being in a month from now. When it's playoff time, it's critical time for your ratios and stuff like that for getting into playoffs or whatever it is if you're in your roto spot. Let this be the determination if he is broken for the rest of the year and there's no more time to fix it, or if this can get fixed. I'd love to see the splitter be a little bit more effective. Those are the things I'll be looking for this week. I will start him just out of spite to see if it works.
At the Tigers, man, in Comerica, as a fly ball pitcher, it does not get better than that matchup. At the Phillies, you know, if it's a warm day, the ball flies out there too. But, you know, that's a lineup that's struggled for a lot of this season as well. Yeah. I think I'm with you. I think it's one last try last week. Let's see what happens with Joe Ryan. But
one last hurrah, baby. Let's go.
We were just talking this way, not to this extent, about Framber Valdez, though, right? Like his previous 5 starts before this, he had a 7 ERA, and then what happens? He comes out and he throws a no-hitter. Granted, he's more established. He's a different pitcher. He gets ground balls. I get it. It's not apples to apples here with Joe Ryan, but let's not forget what Joe Ryan did earlier in the season as well. He was super dominant. So I understand the frustrations. I say let's throw him out one more time next week with those 2 starts at the Tigers and at the Phillies. And if he lets us down, then we're really making some tough decisions here on Joe Ryan.
You know what I wonder, I've been doing this a lot lately with, I do some other shows and stuff, and we're talking about getting into like bigger philosophical things of how teams are approached. I do this big thing about like why teams don't have more hands-on approaches with prospects. Some teams do, some don't, some for the better, some for the worse. And then in season, you get a little bit more love. I wonder if these teams ever think, or even just the pitchers themselves, think about the plan when things don't go right. You know, there's a hyper focus on, all right, this is my pitch mix, this is where I go, and the maybe not things going right is, all right, I don't have this pitch, I go here. But what is like the in-season game plan for when these things fall apart? If you have, relied heavily on a splitter and that's your thing and it doesn't work, I feel like especially if you throw that pitch, you got to have something else. That's been Brandon Pfaadt's big issue. The sweeper was all over the place. Fastball wasn't effective. And if you got nothing else, you're getting banged around. Well, if Joe Ryan doesn't have his splitter, he's only got the sweeper and fastball again. and he's getting banged around. I wonder if there'll ever be a point, or if there's any of these organizations that think of like, all right, this is when this happens, we need to change not only the pitch mix, but we need to try something completely different. We need to cut a pitch. The Rays are taking fastball usage off a lot of guys. That's why the excitement about Aaron Savali is out there. It's just a dumb theoretical thing I think about, that you would love for smart pitchers like this, especially that are adding in pitches, have a contingency plan to not just become a 2-pitch pitcher if something isn't working. That would be great for a really smart pitcher like Joe Ryan. It's just obviously not in play. And that's why you should be like more worried about what we're talking about, but I'm still going to throw them out.
I just think he doesn't have anything else to go to, Welsh. I mean,
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, let's get something else to go to. That should be, that's the part of that contingency plan I'm talking about. Like, don't just be like, this is it. You're not Spencer Strider. You can't rely on those two things. He does have a slider that gets thrown occasionally. Let's just see a little bit more. But I mean, this is like, baseball guys be like, shut up. You're not throwing it. This is what we do. He doesn't have this, we go to this, but find something else, because it seems to be a pretty long track record of like when a splitter based pitch doesn't work and you don't have an arsenal of like, 3 other pitches and you're just going sweeper fastball. That doesn't seem to be like a great trend that works well in a lot of these guys' favor.
The last name of these 3 that struggled big time on Wednesday, Dylan Cease. He was crushed at the Texas Rangers, 1 2/3 innings. That's right. He recorded 5 outs. He gave up 7 hits, 7 runs, 3 walks to 1 strikeout here. And the ERA has ballooned up to 4.61. He's got a 1.4 whip on the season now. Still well over a strikeout per inning. And he had that stretch from May to June where it looked like it was coming together, but he's been inconsistent once again. Over his last 6 starts, we're looking at a 6.37 ERA for Dylan Cease. BABIP is up over 400, allowing lots of hard contact. The problem here as well is he's got 2 starts next week. He's facing the Yankees, and he's at home against the Brewers. Welsh, your thoughts on Dylan Cease?
Not feeling great about it. This is, like any of these other guys, looking at this last start, not a ton of anything outside of a fastball sitting inside the zone. His slider, dead red middle. If he was throwing a slider for a strike, it is right in the money zone. And then when he's throwing this knuckle curve, kind of same thing, right in the zone. Fastball all around, and then everything else is just like an artistic, I'm going to cover my eyes and throw paint against the wall. Like that's what his pitch mix looks like right now. And it's like Giolito. It's like a better version of Giolito with that same mix. He can go 10. He can lose it. He seems to be losing it right now. You and I were kind of anti Dylan Cease guys going into this year. And best thing that could have happened to him is if that Dodger rumored trade could have ended up happening and they could have worked through and fixed him, because the White Sox, look at the mess that they're spreading around the league, the cancer of players that are moving around, and Giolito's taking his stuff to the Angels, and God knows where Lance Lynn is going to look like long-term for this. So I don't feel optimistic about Dylan Cease. I don't feel, what was the matchup again? The 2?
Yankees and Brewers.
He's not a guaranteed must start in a 2-pitch. That's not a guarantee. I don't know if I want to start him in either one of those. Brewers, the strikeout numbers could get really big if I'm chasing that, but I don't like that Yankee matchup.
Yeah, I mean, the Yankees lineup has been pretty bad, but if there's one thing that they can do, it's hit home runs when they get hot. We saw that here on Wednesday. Stanton hit a home run. Volpe hit a home run. Judge is back. We'll see if he's still here by next week. But the difference between Dylan Cease and Joe Ryan is that we haven't seen him be great this season. We saw Joe Ryan be great this season. Dylan Cease was great last year. We haven't really seen much of that Dylan Cease so far this year. Again, there was a short stretch in there, but walks a big issue, fly balls, home runs, hard contact. This makes Dylan Cease and someone like Lucas Giolito very volatile starting pitchers. So I would say of the 3, probably more so because of the matchups than anything, I'm probably going to start Joe Ryan, but Dylan Cease and Giolito, and I think I'd be all right just not dropping, but I think benching at least for the 4th.
But if you had to drop one,
I think it would
Giolito.
be Giolito, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think so. Oh my goodness gracious for me, 20 minutes in. But
hey.
It's all right. We had to talk about these pitchers because they're on everyone's mind right now. Chas McCormick, 2 for 3 with 2 socks and a shoe. That's right. 2 home runs and a stolen base in this game. He's up to 15 homers, 12 steals on the year, also batting .286 with a .922 OPS. And over his last 46 games, this is nearly a 2-month stretch now, Chas McCormick batting .323, 13 home runs, 8 steals during that time. The walk rate, solid this year, 10%. Strikeout rate, a touch high. His average exit velocity, it's solid. What he does is he barrels the ball up. 12% barrel rate. That is very strong. 79th percentile this year. He is a right-handed batter who plays in Houston. I know last time I said this, he doesn't just pull everything. He actually, does hit some home runs up the middle into the opposite way. But as a right-handed batter with those Crawford boxes in left field, it's something that he could take advantage of. Still only 73% rostered. And I am a man that could admit mistakes, Welsh. I can admit when I'm wrong. The YouTube chat a couple of weeks ago, they were all over Chas McCormick. They were yelling at us every day. Talk about Chas McCormick. Talk about Chas McCormick. And I'm like, come on, man. This isn't real. It's Chas McCormick, whatever. But, man, he absolutely looks like the real deal right now. So, shout out to those who are on him. I'm kind of late to the party here. 73% rostered. I think he's absolutely a must-add. If he's out there, even in a 3 outfielder league, even in a points league, I mean, if he's out there, you got to get McCormick on your team.
That I told you guys about that new kind of format that I was playing around with, where to try to keep people, the league mates that we had interested, our home league, interested the whole year. I'm losing. I don't care about my roster anymore. We split it into half. The first season was roto. The second season was head-to-head. So you got a playoff run. Keeps everybody excited. We redrafted. Chas McCormick was not a pickup. He was a full draft player for me. And early on in the season, that early attempt, especially the Astros broadcasting was talking about how he's had the green light and he's running more. Then the power started to pick up. And I've got I should have gone and looked beforehand, but I have a pretty big bench. I took a shot on the Jorge Polancos. I think I had Tyler O'Neill, and I got a couple other guys in that redraft here. I cannot take Chas McCormick out of my lineup, to exactly what you said. I'm actually trying to look right here what the roster is. I can't get him out of this lineup if I wanted to. I can't even pull this up. I can't even find this bad boy. But to say the least, yes, the chat, you guys you're owed a lot of credit here. And Chas McCormick has been awesome. There's a lot of sustainable stuff. I love the barrel rate. I actually found it here. So it's I got James Outman, Leody Taveras. Those are the other two that are on the bench. I can't put either one of those guys in, and both are double-digit homer and stolen bases right now. I can't get those guys in. I have Josh Lowe, Henry Davis, Brian Reynolds. Chas McCormick is my second best outfielder, maybe arguably right now the best outfielder on that team. So he is a absolute must-play the rest of the year, and low-key is going to be massively valuable by the end of the year.
I've got 4 names written down here, Welsh, that are all still rostered in more than 85% of CBS leagues. They're rostered in more leagues than Chas McCormick. All right. Would you drop any of these for old Chazzy boy? Teoscar Hernandez. Thoughts?
Yes.
I think so too.
Yep.
Alex Verdugo has really slowed down since the start of July. What do you think?
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Verdugo.
Bye-bye. This one might be a little bit tougher. He hit a home run here on Wednesday, his 10th home run of the year. He's been kind of up and down since getting recalled. Jordan Walker.
I'm going to say Jordan Walker, but I would have been more confident if they would have moved one of those outfielders. I was so assured Tyler O'Neill was going to go. Dylan Carlson didn't go. So there's still kind of a dirty mess out there of players. It might be Chas McCormick might be the right answer. You know what? Nope. Screw it. Chas McCormick. I'm sticking with Chas. I'm trying to get the comment. I have no idea what the YouTube has been saying about me this whole season. Trying to get him on my side. Getting you guys on my side. Let's go. Chas McCormick. Who's the fourth one? I'm picking him.
The last name here.
Juan Succo. We'll go Chas McCormick. Let's go.
Josh Lowe. Still 87% rostered.
He is really struggling. I mean, the split stuff. I'm going to go Josh Lowe.
Does he play every day?
I know. I'm going to go Josh Lowe. I'm not even looking. I want to look at anything else and change my mind. If I go Josh Lowe, it might not be right, but please still love me for taking Chas over the other guys.
I'll take Chas over Josh Lowe. I will do that. I mean, the playing time is so sporadic. And look, Chas is giving you power and speed too. It's not like, Josh Lowe is giving you this crazy skill set that Chas can't give you the way he's played. So 73% rostered. Get him on your teams. 3 outfielder leagues, points leagues, CBS players out there. Please go get Chas McCormick. The chat was right. You guys killed it. And I was wrong. Let's take our first break. And when we return, we'll talk about all those injuries. Bo Bichette, Chas McCormick, not Chas McCormick, Shane McClanahan. He is just on my mind. Don't do it.
Don't you. If Chas is down tomorrow, you're done.
I apologize. All right, let's do that right after this.
In case you're new here, we're here to make history. We are more than the names on our back. We're the team on the front, the country on our shoulders, the city behind us, and the fire inside us. The best in the world. We got us. We don't just play the world's game. We run it.
Welcome back, and let's get into those big injuries from Wednesday. And Bichette, we already knew he was dealing with something. He was listed as day-to-day on the trade deadline. Leading up to the trade deadline, they acquire Paul DeJong, and all of a sudden I start freaking out. I'm like, what's wrong with Bichette? This might be actually a pretty big deal. He was placed on the IL with right patellar tendonitis, and the Blue Jays would not offer a timeline on the injury, so that makes me a little bit worried there about Bichette. Paul DeJong was in the lineup, batting 8th on Wednesday. So if you do play in a deeper league, we're talking, 15-teamer. I went and checked earlier today. He's available in that league. So if you lost Bichette in a league that deep, you might just be looking at Paul DeJong as a replacement for him.
Do you want him?
Do you want him? I mean, he's going to play, right? He's going to play for the Blue Jays.
How about this? Paul DeJong or Geraldo Perdomo?
I probably would take Perdomo. Yeah, it's a little power and speed there. I think the only thing with Perdomo is he's like rostered in a good amount of leagues now, I think. Let's see. He's up to he's 49%. DeJong
50.
DeJong is 13%. So yeah.
I mean, DeJong's out there, but there's a reason he's out there.
Yeah.
Because it's cool that he hits homers, but it's not good. Like, I'm not gonna I don't know if anyone has an argument to make for him, like, knock yourself out, but he hit 300 in April. Otherwise, he's hit like 230 or under for the most part. It's disgusting. Baseball Savant page. He's not breaking any. I'm not into it. Cool, maybe he'll hit a couple more homers and stuff like that, but I could do better than a 230 batting average shortstop. Not that Perdomo's amazing, but OBP 380, 13 stolen bases, maybe points league. That doesn't matter quite as much, but I guess it's cool that he's there, but maybe there's other options that don't feel as sexy because you're like, ooh, DeJong is a Blue Jay. I'd rather Perdomo than him.
Yeah, strictly deep leagues on Paul DeJong. Ezekiel Duran. People look like they're dropping him here because he's down to 70% rostered. Feels like he's kind of fallen off a little bit recently, but the StatCast data was really strong for a lot of the season and plays in a really good lineup with the Texas Rangers. So that's, in shallower leagues, 10, 12-team leagues, I think if Duran is out there, you can go ahead and add him. I'm looking at other names under 70%. 3 names in a row here. Orlando Arcia, Ezekiel Tovar, the aforementioned Perdomo. Welsh, how would you rank that group? Arcia, Tovar, Perdomo.
Okay. I think I need to look at Tovar here because I'm going to go Arcia purely based on that offense. I mean, Arcia has been decent, but I'll do that. We actually did that. Didn't we do that on the show months and months ago? You asked me Orlando Arcia versus Perdomo. I remember that one. Tovar, maybe a little bit of a wild card. Got up to 10 homers. Good. 5 stolen bases. Not great. Expected batting average is about in line. I'll go Arcia, Tovar, Perdomo. That's how I'm going to rank them. Maybe if I need stolen bases, maybe I prioritize Perdomo over Tovar, but I'll put Arcia at the top.
Yeah, I think that's the right ranking as well. So I would go Arcia, Tovar, Perdomo. If for some reason Duran is out there in your league, go ahead and add him. And if you play in a deep league, you might have no choice but to go with our good friend Paul DeJong.
Oh, buddy.
Shane O'Mac. The unfortunate news here, Shane McClanahan experienced tightness in his left forearm during Wednesday's start against the Yankees. He'll head back to Tampa on Thursday to be checked out by a team doctor, at which point more details regarding the severity of the injury will be available. He has struggled for quite some time here, Welsh. Since going on the IL with the back injury, returning, has not looked like himself, giving up home runs. It's not really like him. It's just he hasn't been himself for a while now. And, the same thing kind of happened last year, right? He, second half of the season, those innings start to add up, and he was dealing with the shoulder. This year it's a little bit different. It's the back, and now it's the forearm. What's your concern level here on Shane McClanahan?
I think it's got to be pretty high. Interestingly enough, too, everything was up today. With, you want to play correlation, like, hey, it's hurting. Well, Fastball was up half a mile. Slider was up almost 3 miles per hour. Maybe that had something to do with it. I don't love that. I don't love it. I'm a huge Shane McClanahan guy. I was like, hey, number one pitcher. Love the team context. He gets wins. He's a bulldog out there. I think the way he attacks the zone with his arsenal is like matched only by Strider's ability to just pump fastballs by anybody, even though you know what's coming. But the injury history is becoming a massive problem. I think it's got to have some effect on the dynasty value long term. This is obviously, part of the reason that the Rays were aggressive in getting a guy like Aaron Savale. But also there's a trend here. Like, how many of these guys are going to get hurt and we don't look at the team organization who is very hands-on, who's very touchy with these guys. Like, hey, we don't want you to throw as many fastballs. We want you to do this. They had sent Taj Bradley down a while back for losing velo on the cutter. It's a very velo-based team that is also adjusting arsenals. Is it something that they're doing when you lose 3/4 of your rotation to, I guess McClanahan's not like a serious injury yet, but we could argue with the amount of times this is going on, it's getting to the point where it's like, if this is serious, we're not going to be shocked. And then you've lost Springs, Rasmussen, and him. So yeah, I'm concerned from a dynasty value perspective. And this is a huge blow if this is anything more than like a normal stint for the rest of your playoff run.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the last 6 starts here for Shane McClanahan, including Wednesday night, a 7.36 ERA. And I think even if everything works out here, hopefully it does for him, and he's healthy this offseason, and he's healthy going into draft season. Like you said, I think this is something we have to factor in. You just have to kind of, I think, assume at this point that Shane McClanahan's body is not going to hold up over the course of the season until we see him do it. We haven't seen him do it yet, so I think until we see that, we do have to be skeptical.
Like you would have said prior to this, prior to like the struggle, Shane McClanahan was like a top 3 SP in Dynasty, right?
Yeah.
Ish, like right there. Like if you were, and we can also just talk about like redrafting to next year. I know some people it's not helpful, but we can talk about next year and like what that looks like. Can you put him in the top 5? Like the production's there, but like, can you start to argue the Zach Allen's? Like how many guys are you very comfortable right now putting over him? McClanahan, Strider, clearly.
Strider, Garrett Cole.
Yep, Cole.
Kevin Gausman.
Okay.
And
Gallen?
I think knowing what we know right now, my top 5, I'm looking at it. It has Corbin Burns and Zach Gallen. That rounds out the top 5.
Okay, so McClanahan's out. He's out of that top 5. And would you say that a decent part of the reason is because of the missed games that you're worried about with him now? Because a healthy Shane McClanahan, though you do, like, you got to figure out where the correlation is between the struggles that he's having and then breaking down. Like, you can look and be like, he's been struggling and he's starting to throw harder and then he got hurt. Is that him trying to find himself again? If that is what keeps happening, he's going to just keep getting hurt. But a healthy Shane McClanahan, you would probably at least put him 3 on this list. So yeah, like I'm answering your question with your answer to say like, yeah, I think I completely agree with you. His injury history is absolutely affecting the value right now. And it's actually it's a little bit of a turnoff for dynasty stuff, which I think he's a guy I always want to try to buy in dynasty because he's elite of the elite, but I don't right now because this is a massive problem. And I'm a little bit worried the Rays might be a decent reason behind this.
All right, well, let's slide over to some waiver wire hitters. And I've got 2 outfielders up top here. One that we talked about earlier in the season that we were very excited about. Riley Green. He went 1 for 4 with his 9th home run. And in 20 games since returning from the IL, he is batting .333 with 4 home runs, 92.5 average exit velocity, 14% barrel rate, tons of line drives, doing exactly what we wanted. From earlier on in the season, we said, just lift the ball, man. More line drives, more fly balls. Riley Green has done that, and he has been awesome. He's up to 79% rostered, so this is really shallow league stuff, 10-team leagues, points leagues, things like that. Lars Nootbaar went 2 for 4 with his 11th home run, and so far in the second half, 18 games, he is batting .349 with 6 home runs, 2 steals, and an 1122 OPS. Welsh, who would you rather have, Riley Green or Lars Nootbaar?
Come on, buddy. What are we doing here? What are we
trying to do? The answer is both.
It's absolutely both right now. I think Riley Green offers probably a better safety net when you start piecing together some of the underlying stuff. He's a high batting average guy who's got a really good hard hit rate, which is in the 87th percentile. He's got a barrel percentage over double digits, which is something obviously I'm looking for. But I'm going to say Lars Nootbaar. I'm going to say Lars Nootbaar here because Lars is absolutely connecting into everything that this was the hope. And, the stolen bases are a little bit more of a force here, I think, long-term season. And I'm a Lars Nootbaar guy. The walk percentage is up there. It's low Ks. He's getting the barrel percentage up a little bit more. And, he worked so hard in the offseason to, last year was about barreling. And this year was about lifting those barrels. He's healthy. He's comfortable. They're committed to him through the rest of the season. I think this is like 1A, 1B. I'll personally go Nootbaar, but like Riley Green, this isn't a thing against Riley Green. Batting average is great. I just think maybe the counting stats lag a tiny bit behind Lars Nootbaar rest of season.
I was going to say the same thing too, because the Cardinals are 12th in runs scored. The Tigers are all the way down at 28th. So that is a massive difference there. Against right-handed pitching, Nootbaar has been leading off. So it just opens up the possibility for so many more counting stats. And, it's funny. The more things change, the further we go throughout the season, things fluctuate. They go up and down. The more they change, they stay the same. Because coming into the year, breakout picks, Riley Green, Lars Nootbaar. Who do you want between the two? And here we are. It's August 3rd, and we're talking about the same thing, right? So it's just
funny. And like a month ago, everyone's like, man, how stupid was everybody for liking Riley Green and Lars Nootbaar? Riley Green's hurt, and Lars Nootbaar, it's not working. And it's a full circle we play with this game.
Let me ask you one more. Chas McCormick.
Come on. Stop it.
Where does he factor into that mix? Over the past 2 months, he's been the best of the three.
He might be. I know I gave a lot of dead air there. I apologize.
All right.
He might be the answer. I think it's Chaz. I don't want to say Chaz. I don't want it to be, but I'm really looking for approval. But no, it's also Chaz. I think it's Chaz. Like the stolen bases are a little bit of a better degree. I want it to be Lars, and I got to be honest with you. I don't know if I personally would pull if I had Lars Nootbaar and Chas McCormick was on the wire. I don't know if I could even make that move. I'm finding someone else to do it. I'm going to find anybody else to cut. But I think like if you don't always want to, you can't, especially at this point of the season, you can't just play the like, well, this guy's going to be good the rest. You can't always play that. Chas McCormick has been good, and he's been good consistently. He's stealing bases at a better clip than both of these guys. Arguably, maybe not arguably, he's on a better offense where they're going to let him keep going. It's Chas McCormick. I just didn't want to like easily say it.
It's so close with Nootbaar, man. It's so close.
Wait, no, don't say it. Say someone else. So the chat's on my side then.
I want to say Nootbaar, man.
Do it.
I'm just a sucker for Lars Nootbaar, but they're all in that right range. I'm going to update my rankings on Thursday. They're all going to be top 40 outfielders. These are guys that, if they're available, if you have a struggling Teoscar Hernandez or Josh Lowe in a points league, go out, drop those guys and pick up one of Riley Green, Lars Nootbaar, or Chas McCormick. Some catcher updates here. Gary Sanchez, 3 for 4 with a double dong, enjoying his time here in Coors Field. Has 14 home runs on the season with a 780 OPS. 2 multi-homer games in his last 4 outings for Gary Sanchez. Cal Raleigh, also starting to get hot. 1 for 4 with his 17th home run of the year. Yainer Diaz, 2 for 4, and has started 4 of the past 5 games, even with Yordan Alvarez back in the lineup, which is something I wanted to watch because that was a concern. Once Alvarez is back, how does Yainer Diaz play? Does he catch more and they sit Martin Maldonado? We know that they value his glove behind the plate there. And obviously, I don't think they're going to rush to throw Yordan Alvarez out there in the outfield, but they're finding a way right now. Welsh, how would you rank those 3? Raleigh, Sanchez, and Yainer Diaz.
I was about to say, I'm like, you're going to ask me to rank these 3, aren't you? It's going to be I know. It's going to be Gary Sanchez at the bottom. You know what? I'll go Diaz, Raleigh, and Sanchez. I just can't get, but like, cool. You hit 2 homers every 8 days or every 10 days, Gary Sanchez. You get no hits in between. I can't stomach that, and I'm not here for that. I'll take Yainer Diaz in that offense. Again, like focusing on that offense. The homer totals are great. The underlying stuff works in his favor. They're trying to get him playing time. I'll go with Yainer. I don't know if you feel different. I mean, obviously, Cal Raleigh might be the mix between these two, but I'll take the batting average guy.
I think Raleigh might be the safest just because of the playing time.
Yeah.
While Yainer Diaz is playing a little bit more now, I still do kind of worry, like, is he going to find enough playing time? But that's just me, I guess, splitting hairs between him and Raleigh. I do like Diaz, but I'll go Raleigh, Diaz, Sanchez in that order.
Let me ask you then, do you think, because we're having this conversation, we really should be thinking that we're living in a world where we're streaming catchers? Like, I feel like you're asking the question rest of season, but do you think if these are the options, these are rest of season options? Like, this is the guy, or this is more like, give me the guy that's going now if they're really that different? Because I would rather go with the hotter guy, and that would probably be Yanier right now. I'd rather take that risk, and then if he stinks, you just move on, because this is probably you could probably find like 6 or 7 other catchers that live in this little space of guys that you just pulled out, and maybe you're just better kind of streaming, not to like turn the question or whatever, but just also pointing out this might be more about streaming catchers than it is holding on to a guy rest of season.
Yeah, this is purely if you play in a one catcher league and the back end of the top 12 is kind of sketchy. I mean, Dalton Varsho has been an absolute disaster. Look, we're 4 months into the season. If you told me you wanted to drop Dalton Varsho in a one catcher league for one of these guys and just ride the hot hand, I can't say no. He's been abysmal, and there's not really anything that shows that he's going to get better. Keibert Ruiz, Tyler Stevenson. That's who I have at the back end of my top 12 rankings. If you just want to ride the hot hand with one of these 3 names, I have no problem with doing that. So there's going to be at least one team or 2 teams in a 12-team league that are struggling to find a catcher right now. So
can I ask this without, I don't want to derail. Luckily, it's just you and me, so we're not going to derail too much. But do you think at all with how this position has blown up? I would say it's fair to say this position has blown up in a lot of faces, and we usually play in single catcher leagues like, all right, if I don't get like a decent deal guy, I'll just pick up somebody. Do you think catcher at all could move the way of tight end in fantasy football, where, it's like there's a top core which people are trying to reach so they have the upper advantage because of how bad this bottom is? Because I just don't know if there's enough where we can be like, oh yeah, there's all these great deals that we can put out there. And even streaming looks a little bit wonky. Do you think it could move? I know it's not going to be what tight end is, but do you think it could like kind of be the value of, I need to have the upper tier of catchers because I need to have the advantage on others? But I guess there's also like the Henry Davises of the world that are out there qualifying at outfield that open it up. But I'm just curious what you think.
Yeah, it's kind of tough, and maybe I'm a little bitter this year because I am someone who, in my most important league, 15-team league, 2 catchers, I drafted JT Realmuto, and he's been a letdown. He's sub 250 batting average. The power and speed has been okay, but I'm typically not someone who pays that price for a catcher, and then I did it this year, and it's kind of blown up in my face. So I'm a little bit, I guess, sour on the idea of doing that.
Because I never do it. You'll never see me draft high catchers. I mean, I'll kind of do it in 2 catcher leagues, which I rarely play in, but like single catcher leagues, you'll never ever see me pay the highest price for catchers. And I don't think it'll ever change. Even if we're started to like, everybody, hive mind started to get into like, well, have the advantage of the top guys because everything else is a huge, because the argument with like Travis Kelce, I know fantasy football people roll their eyes, or baseball hearing football, but Travis Kelce, like as the number 1 tight end to the number 3 tight end, there's a pretty big gap, but from him to the 12th tight end, it is more than double. Like he is worth more than double that player. And catcher's starting to kind of have some of those vibes. We'd have to probably go and look from a points perspective that there's not like small gaps. Like the top couple guys probably have quite a big difference between the guys at the bottom. What did you say? Keibert Ruiz is like your 12th catcher?
Yeah, in a points league, it's solely because he makes so much contact. I think he has a sub 10% strikeout rate. The top 3 catchers this year, they are kind of in a tier of their own: Will Smith, Adley Rutschman, and Sean Murphy. But I think that's like, Sean Murphy was my guy coming in this year, and he was the catcher I was targeting everywhere. And my mindset will be next year is, okay, find the next Sean Murphy, like find the mid-tier catcher that can break out in a really good offense. So I think that's probably the way I'll typically attack it. But probably
be Realmuto again, honestly, because he'll probably be like the 5th I would say tight end, 5th catcher ranked. You'll probably jump back in.
I don't know, man. He's hurt me this year, and I don't know if I'll ever forgive him.
Resentment.
Let's hit some news and notes quickly here. Corey Seager skipped a minor league rehab assignment and was activated on Wednesday out of nowhere. Love it. I mean, I wish we had some kind of indication because, if you're playing a weekly league, you're just going to miss out on these stats. But what do you know? He homered in his first game back. So welcome back, Corey Seager. Max Fried is on track to return Friday against the Cubs at Wrigley Field. He's been out since May 9th with a left forearm strain. Joe Musgrove, some bad news here as well. Scratched from Wednesday's start due to minor right shoulder soreness. For the time being, the Padres don't view Musgrove's shoulder as anything too serious and believes he will avoid the IL. Cross your fingers. Marcus
Sure about
Stroman,
that?
yeah, sure. Marcus Stroman placed on the IL with right hip inflammation, which might explain his recent struggles. The Cubs have already said Stroman will be ready when first eligible. So I think if anything, this kind of feels like a clear your head IL stint. You've been really bad recently. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Daniel Kramer of MLB.com reports that Andres Munoz is in line to serve as the Mariners' primary closer following the trade of Paul Sewald. And that's what we suspected on yesterday's podcast. But it is nice to hear from somebody else. And then what happened here on Wednesday, Munoz struck out 2 for his 3rd save. They used him in the 9th inning, 54% rostered. Absolutely the biggest must-add player in fantasy baseball right now, regardless of format, points league, categories league, 54%.
Only 54%, really?
Crazy. Get him on your team.
Wow.
Absolutely.
I'm surprised there wasn't I'm surprised we didn't see a lot of like proactive pickups. I would have been interested. I probably should have done this. Look at like the 7-day pickup line on CBS, which, by the way, I think is like one of the most helpful pickup tools if you'd like to pay attention to, the movement around leagues, because everybody else is behind on CBS as far as usually the percentages are higher. But I'm surprised there wasn't a lot of proactive moves going into the deadline, especially with the Mariners talking about moving and the rumors with Sewald and stuff. I'm actually shocked that it's under 70% on Munoz. That's crazy. So yeah, pick maybe the most obvious pickup that is available in leagues. That's crazy.
Yeah, to be totally honest, I heard the rumors that they could move Paul Sewald. I didn't believe it. I didn't really think that they would actually go through with it, but I mean, here we are. So yes, go add Andres Munoz if he's available in your league. Trevor Story won't be activated off the IL Friday. He expressed a desire to remain at AAA to continue rehabbing. Yeah, I guess he might.
It's very Eduardo Rodriguez of him. Like, nah, I don't want to go.
Nah, I'm not. Nah,
I really like it here. I'm gonna hang out.
Yeah, I'm gonna hang out with my friend Chris Sale, and we're gonna cut up some jerseys or do something crazy. Jordan Romano played catch on flat ground Wednesday, the first time he's picked up a baseball since landing on the IL with lower back inflammation. Speaking of Chris Sale, he's scheduled to make his next rehab start Sunday at AAA, and if all goes well, could return to the Red Sox after that outing. We haven't heard anything about Oneil Cruz in quite a while, but apparently he could begin a rehab assignment later this month. He had surgery back on April 9th to repair his fractured left ankle.
Frank, let me tell you something. The TGFBI leagues, I was down a little bit. I have made a wild run in my league. I'm second in my personal league. I was like in the low 300s in like May, and I have why? Because I proactively picked up Ellie De La Cruz, Christian Encarnacion-Strand, got guys like Lars Nootbaar, Chas McCormick. I've made some good pickups, some good pitchers, but I drafted Oneil Cruz. I am just like, please give me Oneil Cruz for this last little push to make a big run because I didn't cut him. But I am really worried in that what that optimism was, back in May, that we could get him for, if you play in head-to-head like playoffs, is looking a lot less likely we're going to even get him for that run. Maybe a small little run in Roto. Just the impact is not going to be there. It kind of bums me out because I know he was throwing a couple weeks ago, but I have to imagine there's a full stint of rehab in front of him. So if we don't get that going in the next week, it's going to be pretty tough to even get him into early September. So that's a bummer.
Yeah. Shout out to you, man. I mean, TGFBI, for those wondering, it's a set of a bunch of different 15-team roto leagues with all different kind of experts and fantasy players, and we all compete in an overall prize as well. I am in 12th out of 15 teams in my league, and what's really frustrating? Your team has a great day. My team hit 395 today, 3 home runs, 8 runs, 5 RBI. I had Zach Wheeler pitch. He was really good. And I moved down 1.5 points.
I was just about to say, I was like, and you didn't move anywhere. I actually didn't expect you to say that you moved down.
What is happening? It's so frustrating.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm like, oh, hey, look at me, I'm doing well. Like I've done not well a lot of times, and also you get kind of into that crunch period in those these are like NFBC based leagues, in that crunch period where like people give up, and that's where you start to you're like, okay, hopefully I can take advantage of it. And yeah, I've just been lucky enough that a lot of my team has rolled, and I've moved up. I'm a little bit behind first, and hopefully can do something with it. But thank you. Hopefully Ellie De La Cruz stops striking out every other at bat, and I can keep going with it. And maybe I'll get Oneil Cruz back too.
Yeah, shout out to Greg Jewett. He's in first place in my league. Great player.
Greg, that's a monster.
Liam Hendriks underwent Tommy John surgery Wednesday, which means he won't be back until late 2024, if that. And it's obviously rough news for somebody who's overcome so much this year. So hoping for the best there with Liam Hendriks. Ryan Helsley faced hitters in live batting practice Wednesday. He's eligible to return from the IL next week, but still might need a rehab assignment. Domingo Germán, kind of crazy story here, placed on the restricted list after agreeing to voluntarily submit to inpatient treatment for alcohol abuse. Germán has been at the center of quite a few off-field issues in the past, so hopefully he can turn his life around. It sounds pretty serious there on Domingo Germán.
Yeah.
Josh Naylor has missed 2 straight with right side tightness. JD Martinez has missed 2 straight with left hamstring tightness. Brandon Nimmo has missed 2 straight with quad tightness. JT Realmuto, old friend, has missed 2 straight with a cut on his right hand. And Justin Turner has also missed 2 straight with a left heel contusion. Nestor Cortez set to return this weekend against the Astros. Luis Severino is listed as the probable pitcher on Friday against the Astros as well. Jack Flaherty will make his Orioles debut Thursday against the Blue Jays. Buxton was scratched with right hamstring tightness. Logan O'Hoppe on track to begin a rehab assignment next week. 25% rostered. If you play in a two-catcher league, go stash Logan O'Hoppe.
I'm also hoping it's here because I think he's been training here in Phoenix. It wouldn't be atypical for him to not play a couple games. If he does, I'm going to run out and try to get some video. But yes, he's a huge pickup right now in those catcher leagues. All those stupid catchers we talked about. I'd rather stash Logan O'Hoppe. You know what? Get Yanier Diaz, run him out for a week, stash Logan O'Hoppe, so when Diaz struggles, you can throw him back in the lineup, and you'll be happy. You'll be super happy. I was trying to say an analogy. I'm horrible with analogy. Let's say as happy as rain, but that's not an analogy. What would that be? Is you know what I'm saying? Like there's an analogy in there. You'd be as something, and I don't know what it is. Are you an analogy guy?
Not really, but the first one that came to mind was happy as a pig in, and I'll let you.
Yeah, okay, that's a good one. Yeah, but there was something with rain. I couldn't get there, but we'll take yours. Yours is good.
Ben Lively was placed in the IL with a right pectoral strain, and people were tweeting asking Welsh, is it time to stash Connor Phillips? Because with Ben Lively on the IL, maybe he can get a shot. So far in the minors this year, 2.92 ERA, a 1.34 WHIP, 143 strikeouts over 92 and a third innings. He's 11% rostered. Well, should we be stashing Connor Phillips?
Yeah, I think this is a really good stash. 100%. He's got to be on that line. They actually got Connor Phillips, coming from the school of the Mariners pitchers. He's had a great run this year. The whip numbers you do need to pay attention to. 2.92 ERA is great, but a 1.34 whip does show some of the volatility that's out there. So a Reds pitcher, home run centric with bad whip, I'd worry that the ratios might fall apart. So just don't immediately assume because he's had this great minor league run, he's going to be Andrew Abbott. But yeah, sure, he's a good stash because if it does work, big strikeout numbers. Connor Phillips is a good one of those probably top 10, probably a top 10 prospect to focus on if you're looking to stash right now.
All right, let's take our final break. When we return, rapid fire. We've got some waiver wire pitchers, leftovers, all that fun stuff right after this.
It's time. The best Transformers yet.
There you go.
Is now streaming on Paramount Plus.
This is gonna be fun, man. Now let's talk to your manifestation.
Transformers: Rise of the Beast. Rated PG-13. Now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Welcome back. Let's talk waiver wire pitchers. We mentioned earlier Grayson Rodriguez. He's at the top of the list here. Other names, Mackenzie Gore turned in his first quality start since June 3rd. That's right. It only took him 2 months to get it done, but 6 innings, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts for him. Velocity down across the board. Feels like that happened to Mackenzie Gore last year as well. Does look like he's in line for the A's and at the Phillies next week. So some pretty good matchups there for Mackenzie Gore. Cutter Crawford, solid start at the Mariners. 5 shutout innings with 5 strikeouts for him. And 2 deeper league names. I'll save those for later. Welsh, how do you rank this group? Grayson Rodriguez, Mackenzie Gore, and Cutter Crawford.
Right as rain. That's what I was trying to say. Right as rain. Doesn't make any sense, but right as rain. All right, Mackenzie Gore. Who was my other one? Was it Grayson, Mackenzie Gore, and Crawford? Is that what you gave me?
Yep.
Grayson, Cutter, Mackenzie Gore. Mackenzie Gore, still a very young pitcher. I actually would take the opportunity in dynasty leagues while he is on a struggle bus to buy, because I've loved a lot of what he's done this season. But, the wear and tear, full season run, I think he's kind of coming to a close. I like what Cutter Crawford's been doing, especially from a strikeout basis. But it is like Grayson, and then it's Cutter and maybe Gore in like their own little tier.
All right. And with Cutter Crawford, 2 starts next week. It looks like he's in line for. It does not get better than this. Kansas City and Detroit. So if Cutter Crawford is in the rotation for both of those starts, Tanner Houck and Garrett Whitlock are getting ready to start rehab assignments. I don't think they'll be back by next week. But, man, if Cutter Crawford gets both of those matchups, it doesn't get better. So, if you're just trying to beat the waiver wire for a 2-star week, the name there, Cutter Crawford. 2 pitchers in deeper leagues. Dakota Hudson pitched well against the Twins, 7 innings, 3 runs with 7 strikeouts, and has had some fantasy value in the past. It's been, pitching to contact, not a lot of whiffs. So I don't know how much faith we want to put in him. Cole Reagans, who is on the Royals, he turned in a great start up against the Mets with a very bad Mets lineup. I mean, the back half of this lineup, they had names in there I didn't even know who they were. So it's pretty bad. But good start for Cole Reagans, 6 shutout innings with 8 strikeouts and 13 swinging strikes. I know he's had all kind of crazy strikeout numbers down in the minors, but also lots of walks as well. So we're talking very deep leagues here, Welsh, but any interest in Dakota Hudson or Cole Reagans?
In the best rapid fire I can give you, no, like really not. Definitely not Cole Reagans on that team. So definitely huge no. Dakota Hudson, if it's against, if it's a really good matchup, maybe. But overall, if I can pull my Scott White, no interest.
Yeah, and the matchups for both of those 2 next week, Hudson at Tampa Bay, Reagans at the Red Sox. Doesn't look good for either of those. No. Pitching leftovers, Dane Dunning does not want to leave the Rangers rotation. He refuses to do so, actually, because he was amazing against the White Sox. 7 2/3 innings, 1 run, 11 strikeouts with 14 swinging strikes. And he's had some really big performances this year. I know a few 7, 8 inning outings there from Dane Dunning. He's kind of defying the odds. Not many whiffs, pitching to contact, but the overall numbers this year really, really good. He's still 80% rostered. I don't know that there's much actionable here, Welsh, but do you think this will be enough for Dane Dunning to stick around in the Rangers rotation?
Yes, and I think you could maybe make arguments of Dane Dunning or Lucas Giolito based on matchups. I think that's where you're at. Though I will say this. I would love for someone to find this. Find me a lower whiff percentage on a pitch that is used 30% or more in an arsenal, because Dane Dunning's sinker has a 6.5 whiff percentage. I don't know if there's a lower whiff percentage on a pitch used that much in all of baseball. The strikeouts are anomalies. I think his prop was 3.5 today. That's where he lives. He's just not his big strikeout option, but again, it's a good offense. He can pitch to contact, and he can make it work for himself. But he also has a 4.87, I believe, expected ERA, which is a run and a half higher than he is. So you're always worried it's going to blow up. But maybe he's just going to define the odds all year. I do like me some Dane Dunning, but please, somebody find me a worse whiff pitch with that type of usage in baseball.
And it's back-to-back starts here with Andrew Heaney and Dane Dunning. Both of these guys kind of shoving all in, and they don't want to get the boot from the rotation. Next up, Martin Perez. Let's see what you got, man, because if he struggles, he might be the one on the outside.
No, he's the one. He's the one that goes for sure.
Yeah, I think so. Some other pitching leftovers here. Eduardo Rodriguez, quality start at the Pirates. No LA, no problem. 6 innings, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts for him. Zach Wheeler, quality start at the Marlins. 6 innings, 2 runs, 4 strikeouts there. Garrett Cole gave up a first inning home run and then settled down quite a bit. 7 innings, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts against Tampa Bay. And Yusei Kikuchi, he is on a roll right now, facing a tough offense in the Orioles. 6 innings, 1 run, 3 strikeouts. He's got the ERA down to 3.67. The whip still pretty high, 127 there for Kikuchi, but he's pitched pretty well. Welsh, any thoughts here? Kikuchi, Garrett Cole, Zach Wheeler, and Erod.
Erod, I'm getting annoyed with Erod. There's something has changed in his game. He really lacks what he had early on in the year of aggressive 2-strikeout stuff. He's just not. He's pitching. I feel like he's pitching to a lot more contact. He never hits the over on the K prop. he gets out early, it just muddies, and then he gets 1 or 2. And I just feel like, especially when the ball count comes up, so like, let's say he gets to 0-2, then he's pitching to contact, and then it gets to a 3-2 count. He's not looking for a big strikeout. He's looking to just pitch to contact. And I don't know, like, I just don't feel like that's awesome, sustainable. I would love for him to have a bigger strikeout numbers. I obviously don't want him to give up big runs, so it's, you'll play safe, and sometimes you have to pitch a contact. I'm just not in love with that. Rest of the guys, I think it's pretty standard where we're at. Cole, Wheeler's probably a cool buy in fantasy if you still have your trade deadline in front of you. That would be someone I would try to buy on whatever low he's being sold at right now.
I agree 100%. I think Zach Wheeler, I still have him ranked as, I think, my 7th starting pitcher rest of season. I think we could see a big final 2 months from him.
Yeah.
Last name I wanted to mention here, Kodai Senga, who goes into Kansas City. It's supposed to be a good matchup. He gives up 11 hits, 3 runs over 5 2/3 innings, and still got a decent amount of strikeouts and swinging strikes. The velocity, fastball velo down 2.3 miles per hour. The cutter down 1 mile per hour here as well. Welsh, any concern here on the velocity on Kodai Senga?
I am a little bit worried. Similar to like going back to that splitter thing. I mean, the fork ball for him just works, but it's kind of now the inverse where he had 17 swings on the fastball, donut on the whiffs, no whiffs whatsoever. There were some called strikes, which got to the CSW percentage up to 21%, but his top used pitches, that cutter and that fastball, they just ain't doing it. Had an outside the zone swing percentage of 13% on the cutter. So between not getting whiffs on the fastball, no one swinging on the outside of the zone on the cutter, you're just back to just throwing this fork. And I don't love that. And maybe some of it is like adjusting to, the full season MLB baseball and wearing down a tiny bit and trying to, hit zones a little bit more and not trying to strike out 12 every at bat. But I don't like the velo dip. Watch that. I'm going to monitor that because that is worrisome. Of course, we all know that is.
And immediately, this is me overreacting and jumping to conclusions, but the Mets clearly, they were sellers. They're not playing for much here in the second half. This is a prized possession that they have for on a 5-year contract. By the time we get to September, do they shut him down at some point? Do they maybe move him to the bullpen? I'm not wish casting this, but I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility. It wouldn't surprise me if something like that happens here.
Yeah, you can see them even go and be like, hey, let a little bit off. Don't worry about that. Let a little bit off if you have to. Don't overstrain here. Don't pull a McClanahan. Don't try to add 2.5 on your slider right now. Just take it down a little bit. We don't like that.
Do not like it. Some hitting leftovers here. Welsh, I'm just going to list off a bunch of things. Feel free to jump in wherever you want to. The Braves, they just keep on mashing. We mentioned what they did to poor Lucas Giolito. Ronald Acuna went 3 for 4 with his 25th home run. Austin Riley and Matt Olson, they went back-to-back. 25th for Riley, 37th for Matt Olson. Michael Harris stays hot, 3 for 4 with a double, 2 RBI, and 3 runs scored. 2 days in a row now, the Cubs clobbered the Cincinnati Reds. They scored 16 runs on 16 hits. Ian Happ has been very mid, as the kids would say, for most of the season. But, he's had a big game here. 2 for 4 with a double dong. Christopher Morel, 2 for 5 with his 17th home run. Dansby Swanson, 1 for 5 with his 16th home run. I think that's now 6 homers in 11 games since coming back from the IL. And Jeimer Candelario, back-to-back 4-hit games to begin his Cubs career. Looking like a great acquisition so far. Ha-Seong Kim's shoulder looks to be just fine. He went 2 for 3 with his 15th home run. The dude has turned into a complete stud here, Welsh. 284 batting average, 838 OPS, 15 homers, 22 steals, stud.
Yeah, and this is like, I'm going to take all those victory laps, but like the way I had him ranked in my first year player when he was coming out back then, I feel very vindicated. I've lost some Victor Mesas, and you win some. Sometimes it takes a long term. I meant to say this earlier. Last 30 days, a couple names I wanted to throw at you. Lars Nootbaar, 8th best WAR in baseball, hitting .322, 5 homers, 2 stolen bases. Number 5, Chas McCormick in WAR, 5th best WAR in baseball over that period of time. 6 homers, 3 stolen bases, .329. Where are we going? The 4th best WAR, Ha-Seong Kim. Ha-Seong Kim has been a monster. He has 4 homers, 9 stolen bases, a higher walk percentage than strikeout, hitting .349, a .345 slash over the last 30 days. Monster.
Yeah, I just looked it up. Ha-Seong Kim has the 6th highest WAR in the National League this year.
On the year. I just gave you 30 days. Wow.
On the year. The only names ahead of him, Ronald Acuna, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Juan Soto, and Corbin Carroll.
That's
5 innings.
wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. By the way, in the last 30 days, top 4 in WAR, all NL. So there you go.
Interesting. Juan Soto, by the way, we just mentioned his name, enjoying himself some Coors Field, 2 for 5 with his 23rd home run. He now has 3 home runs over his last 2 games. Huge game for Anthony Volpe. I was thinking about this as a Yankee fan. I don't really care what they do rest of the year. I don't have many high hopes or expectations for them. The one thing I do want to see is Anthony Volpe play well. Yeah,
What would you do? What would you do if he ended the year with a 240 batting average? I mean, you would like go out, celebrate. You're buying rounds if you could get a 240 batting average, because that means dude's probably hitting 290 the rest of the way. That is exactly what you need. That's what I want to see, because those counting stats are crazy. You just want to see that batting average come up and pull 2 months or 6 weeks of consistent contact, good barreling, and good decisions the rest of the year, so we can go in and make him a sleeper next year.
14 home runs and 20 steals. The batting average is abysmal, but he's on pace for like a 20-30 season as a rookie, which is it's pretty crazy stuff there for Anthony Volpe. Jordan Walker hit his 10th home run. I mentioned that earlier. Freddie Freeman, 3 more hits for him. Just crazy season for him. 339 batting average, 21 homers, 14 steals, and a 10.04 OPS. Some bullpen updates here, and there were some wacky ones. Let's get into it. The Tigers, Alex Lang started the 9th inning with a 4-run lead. He struck out the first 2 batters, and then walk, single, walk, walk. He was relieved by Tyler Holton, who got the final out and picked up his first save. The Tigers have been oddly, loyal, I guess, to Alex Lang this year. I just wonder if maybe they'll give Jason Foley a shot. And I'm saying that because I have Jason Foley stashed in a few deeper leagues. So let's go, Jason Foley. For the Brewers, Devin Williams, old friend of the Welshes here, entered the 9th inning with a 1-run lead. First batter reached on an error, and then a single, walk, and 2 runs scored on another error. So not really Devin Williams' fault, but 3rd blown save and 3rd loss of the season.
Still kind of forgettable. I mean, I'd argue still might be kind of for Devin Williams kind of forgettable off that performance, Frank. No big deal.
Yeah, for those who saw Fantasy Feud last week, you know exactly what we're talking about. For the Astros, Ryan Presley struck out 2 for his 26th save. The Phillies, this one was kind of interesting. Back and forth here between the Phillies and Marlins. For some reason, they go to Gregory Soto in the 9th inning with a 1-run lead. Craig Kimbrell should have been available. Maybe they went with Soto because Luis Ariz was leading off. Maybe they wanted that left-on-left matchup. Regardless, Soto gave up a game-tying home run to Jorge Soler. So there goes that. And then the Phillies took a 2-run lead in the 10th inning. Craig Kimbrell comes on for the save. He gives up 2 runs, and he takes the blown save. The Phillies would eventually lose the game. On the other side for the Marlins, David Robertson pitched in the top of the 10th inning with the game tied. He gave up a 2-run homer to Brandon Marsh. That's now back-to-back games, giving up a home run. Rough start to David Robertson's Marlins career. For the Blue Jays, in their first save opportunity without Jordan Romano and with Jordan Hicks on the team, it was Eric Swanson who got the 9th inning, picked up his 3rd save. Yes. Jordan Hicks pitched in the 8th inning in that one. For the Cardinals, no more Jordan Hicks. They had a 4-run lead. Jojo Romero pitched in the 9th inning. He struck out 2. Not a save opportunity, but I just thought it was worth noting that he pitched in the 9th inning instead of Giovanni Gallegos. And for the Giants, Camilo Doval, 32nd save of the year, ties the league lead with Alexis Diaz. To stream or not to stream, let's start with Thursday here. And looking up and down the list,
I'll go Michael Lorenzen. I'll take the debut against the Marlins, I think, with Michael Lorenzen.
I think that's fine. There's not really anyone else I really like.
Do I say Brandon Pfaadt against the Giants? Giants been a little Brandon Pfaadt kind of finding himself a little bit.
It is a big ballpark to pitch in.
Yeah.
How many home runs will Brandon Pfaadt give up in Oracle Park tomorrow? I don't know.
I might go those 2.
I don't really like any of that. I like Lorenzen. I think he's fine, but
isn't it sad that we can't do a woo? Like we're not wooing anymore.
Yeah, Brian, it's like a woo at the Angels. Yeah, I guess if you need a 3rd, but I don't really love it. Yeah. On Friday, Kyle Hendricks has pitched really well, but the Atlanta Braves pitching to contact, no way. I can't do it.
No. Maybe Zach Littell against Detroit
at the Tigers. Yeah,
I might do that.
Ashcraft has pitched well. He's facing the Nationals.
Logan Allen versus Chicago, maybe. I might go Allen and Littell. Those are and I'm kind of staring at Reed Detmers too. Those are the 3 I'm staring at.
I will go Littell, Ashcraft, and Detmers. Those are my 3 for Friday.
Okay.
But it sounds like the Welsh here is taking Logan Allen as well. We're going to wrap there for the Welsh. I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Peace.